Hello everyone, welcome to Best Recipes with Sharon. Today we're going to be making tender cracker breaded pork chops. These are really easy to make and you can have it done in about a half an hour. This is my husband's favorite and we like to serve it with homemade fries and corn on the cob. So you'll need a couple of eggs, some soda crackers, and some nice and meaty pork chops that's good quality. Alright, so this will be done on top of the stove. You turn your heat on high, you get your frying pan out, get a little bit of butter, place your pork chops in the hot pan, and then turn your heat down. Because it's good to kind of sear the one side of the pork chop, but you want to make sure it doesn't cook on the outside too quickly before it cooks on the inside. And you'll let that brown up nice on the one side for a few minutes and then flip it over and do the same on the other side. You may want to adjust your heat up and down a couple of times just to accommodate that. Meanwhile, in a small wide bowl, break open 2 large eggs and whisk them together until they're well combined and frothy. And back to the stove to check on the pork chops. I'm putting a lid on to make sure that they heat through and cook properly, and let them fry with the heat on low. Then place your soda crackers inside of a large Ziploc baggie and take your rolling pin and crush them. Then place them into a bowl so that you can use it for coating the pork chops. And make sure your bowls are wide enough that your pork chops can get into the bottom of it. And these pork chops are really cooking up nicely. It only takes a few minutes to get them to the point where they're nicely seared on the outside, they're still moist on the inside. And there shouldn't be any pink juices flowing from them when you pick them with a fork. So this only takes probably about 15 minutes of cooking on top of the stove, give or take a little bit depending on the size of your pork chops. So here I'm just using a fork to remove them from the frying pan and placing them on the plate. Then don't forget to move your pan off the heat source until you're ready to continue frying. So let me show you the process of getting this coated. I'm just going to place my eggs in a little larger bowl so that I can get the pork chops right down in there a little better. So you take your pork chop, dredge it in the egg mixture, and it's always good to beat those eggs just before you put that in there as well to make sure that they're really well combined. Make sure that you coat it really well with the eggs, and if you have to do this and cover it with your egg mixture a little bit more, do that, but make sure it gets a good amount of eggs on there. And using your fork, you just take the pork chop out of the egg mixture and directly into the crushed crackers. And of course, moving the pork chop around back and forth so that you get it coated really well with the crushed crackers, and you can use the fork to cover it more. And I load it with as much of the crushed crackers as the pork chop will take on. And even if there's extras and they fall off into the pan, I know it makes a little bit of a mess, but they're fun to eat, the little crispies that form from the extra pieces in the pan. Just saying, guys, because you might like that too. No, I'm just making enough for 2 pork chops today, but this recipe is easily adjusted. Now turn your heat back on high and pull your pan back over the element. Add a little bit more butter if you need to, and here I'm using a good quality margarine that tastes like butter. And that's fine too, but you need to have enough of it there so that the pork chops don't burn before they actually brown nicely. And don't forget the soda crackers will actually absorb some of the butter. And yes, here I am adding the rest of the soda crackers just willy-nilly. It's okay. We like the crispies. You don't have to do that if you don't want the mess or you don't want the crispies. Anyway, at this point, you leave your heat on fairly high and you stay right with it because it doesn't take very long for it to brown up. And that's really all you're doing because you've already cooked the pork chop. You're just browning up the coating that you put on the outside. And so here we are, ready to turn them over. You can see it's nicely browned here. And some of the butter has dried up. So at this point it's good to add a little bit more butter just to keep it nice and moist and make sure that it fries to a golden brown. Sometimes I take the pan and shake it a little bit to make sure that the butter has coated all the crackers. And it's okay just to take the fork and check the other side and make sure that it's actually browning up nicely. And I'll take the fork and stir it around a little bit in between as well. And this has only taken just a few minutes to get to this point. So turn the heat off, remove it from the heat source, and get ready to plate up your meal. Here I'm just adding a cob of corn, some homemade French fries, and here it is, the much desired pork chop. This should be tender on the inside and crispy on the outside. Now here you have one delicious meal. Just add a few condiments and you're ready to eat. So let's take a sharp knife and cut this open and show you what the inside looks like. Beautiful. Now let's eat. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.